I could use one volunteer to kind of help me. I can lift it up when we set it on here to make sure it's lined up. What do you think? It's pretty good.
Now,
Yeah.
what will you do with the little chip that's gone from the side?
We're actually going to use four materials on this one. We're going to use a stainless steel pin. We're going to use epoxy to anchor the pins. And then we're also going to use injection grout. And the reason we're going to use that, we're going to fill all the voids around. We're like going to butter it, okay, with that material when we set this down onto the pins. So now I've what I always call fully consolidated the space. I don't have a bunch of air pockets or places for water to sit. And then if we have any that oozes out, we're just going to wipe it off. We use some towels, wipe it off. And then large joints, these small ones we're not going to worry about, but any kind of big cracks or chips, we're going to use the marble patching material on. So we're going to use all those products on this one. And it could use a cleaning, but with the workshop constraints, we didn't want to get this one soaking wet right before we use the epoxies. Okay, so the whole idea, I don't want to really over drill my hole. I don't want just a bunch of epoxy and a little bitty stainless steel pin, right? So it's easy to line things up if I'm going to drill a big hole and just kind of hope for the best, that kind of things line up. I've got a lot of wiggle room, to make it fit. You do want to try to get it as small as practically possible, just so that you're not removing so much of the stone itself. We are in the preservation business, so we're trying to retain as much as possible. In order to line those up, I just like using tape. This stone, I'm going to talk for just a moment also. This is a candidate for pinning because why? Can anyone give me an idea of why they think this would be a good one to pin versus maybe just using a little bit of an adhesive?
The height of it?
The amount of percentage that's above the crack?
You got it. Yeah, there's a lot there still, and if a mower comes by and bumps it, or anyone bumps it or leans against it, anything like that, it's going to be very susceptible to falling, which could do a couple things. One, it could damage the stone beyond repair, but it could hurt someone, especially if it's a little child, kid. So that's why this is a good candidate for that. Another reason is because really, the density of the stone, the hardness, is very heavy. It's in good shape. It's not sugaring. So it's one of those that I don't feel like is a real fragile state. So we can do that type of repair. We mentioned before about 15% of the height of the area being repaired above or below as kind of a measurement of how tall of a pin that should be. We have about 20 inches. 15% of that is what, about 3 inches right in there. Conveniently, I have 6-inch long pins already. We're going to put 3 inches up in the top one and 3 inches down below, and we're going to do 2 of them. A stone about this width, if I was going to pin it, first of all, I would use a thinner rod, maybe 1/4 inch on this. What we're using today, I believe, is 7/16, a little thicker, just a hair under 1/2 inch. But this one, I would just use 1 1/4 inch pin, just one little pin. If you're in a cemetery that seems to have a lot of vandalism, a lot of headstones that are getting kicked over, knocked over, whatever it may be, if this was one of those cemeteries and you're like, yeah, they're coming through here all the time, it's happening once a month, they're coming through, it seems like they're doing some, here or there or whatever, especially right by the road like this, it's an easy target. If I put 2 pins in here, that's still the weak spot, okay? So if someone comes up to that and they give it a really good shove, it's not going to just break here. It's going to break there and here and here. I mean, those pins are hard. Stainless steel is a very hard metal. It's difficult to bend, and it's just going to destroy the stone. Okay, so to line up the holes and to try to get them as close as possible, we're going to just put some tape on the front and back. I'm going to put it in the approximate pin locations. You notice I'm not measuring exact. I'm just kind of dividing it into thirds, eyeballing this. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut the tape at those locations so that at least I have a reference point on the top stone and the bottom stone for where they line up. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to level this out a little better. I just didn't want to damage anything. We pull that up over that, or just along the back of it, so I'm not setting this. There we go. Yeah, just like right there. That way I can get it right on the stone. Okay, so what I'm checking, I just want to make sure that the stone is level on each side. It's flush with the side of the one that I just pulled it from. And it is, so we'll clamp it in that location here in a second. You have any more room on that one? Here, let's dial that one back as wide as it'll go. It might fit. Is that as far as it'll go? What about here? We can unscrew it. Yeah. You have more? There we go.
We got all kinds of stuff here.
There are two things to keep in mind. One is going to be just making sure that you are dead on across one edge or the other of the tape. I'm going to go to the inside edge of each of these, and that's where we're going to make our mark. But we also need to make sure that we are the same distance back from the front of each stone so that the pins line up this direction as well. Or my stone's going to sit out here or back here once it's set. Okay, so we have an approximately 4-inch thick stone, it appears. So I'm going to come in 2 inches and just place a tiny dot at that location. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. Okay, so has anyone ever used a hole saw before? Like on a drill to cut a hole? So they usually have a pilot bit in the middle of it. So there's just a regular drill bit and then you have your hole saw around it. That pilot bit helps you stay centered, right, as you're drilling down. On this flex tool, there is not a pilot bit. There's nothing like that. And if you've ever tried to drill with something like this on a surface, when you first start, it's all over the place, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use that hammer drill over there, and we are going to drill a little pilot hole. So we're just going to drill it down maybe 1/4 of an inch, and then we'll be able to drop the flex tool down into that slot to keep us going. Boy, that couldn't be any better. It's about right. Yeah. Let go there. Does it get it? So I'm going to let you do it. 1/4 of an inch. That's about all you need. Just enough to make sure we've got a good place to start. So we'll do this just really slow, nice and steady, fairly vertical. That's why we don't want to go too deep because it'd be a bad start.
Right on the dot.
Right on the dot. So that's your dead center.
No, really, where did it go?
No, it doesn't need to be. It's just a little shallow bit. Yep, we got a little bit more room to go there. Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay, let's see if it's enough for kind of keep us from walking. Maybe just a little more.
Okay.
Yep. All right, what do you think?
That'll do her.
I think that'll do her. Yep, that's good. Okay, so my bubble level had fallen off, so we put a new one on this morning with some of our epoxy. But you can see on the top of the tool, you can see the bubble level. On this tool, we actually found a location that was actually a true 90 degree off the bit. That's all I'm looking at while I'm drilling. I'm just keeping an eye on that, especially at the beginning. If I get off, there's no correcting it. You know, I need to make sure it's on early while I'm dropping it down in. So.
Yeah, look out, everybody.
Time for me to take a bath, and maybe some of you around me. Let's see. Okay, do any of you hear the tool? Do you hear the tool occasionally? You hear that? It's like it's shifting gears. Okay, so what that is it's breaking plugs. So it'll drill so far and then it'll break them off inside the tool. Where's that little awl? So there are little holes in the side, which are kind of handy. And occasionally, you just need to try to pop them out if I can get to them. Little plugs. Sometimes they come off in little bitty wafers. So, all right, let's see if I can do any better here. Yeah, this is breaking off in little thin, almost looks like hailstones, little bitty hailstones, not in a large like shaft or tube or anything like that, which is kind of handy. Okay, so we have one. I'm going to give someone else a chance if anyone wants to get wet. You see me? No? Okay, no volunteers, right? All right. Hailstones. So there goes the whole reason we didn't clean this stone is we didn't want it to be wet for the epoxy. So that's why we have an air compressor. We're going to blow this thing out like crazy. Just going to rinse this off a little. And then we come and grab the air there. It should already have a unclamp this now and do a test, just lifting it up and onto it. I could use some help for that. This is a little sticky. Okay, so you don't want to learn whether it fits or not after you have all your epoxy in there because you don't have a lot of time. So if you need to re-drill something or do something a little different, you could just end up ruining the stone because you're not going to get that dowel out of there. So next step will be, let's open up the bucket of injection grout and we're going to need to mix a little bit of that up. You're up to it. Okay, so we're on a slope. You're going to have to work kind of fast, but yeah, let's just start mixing that together. Work it around. Yep, keep working it. Go fast. In a circle. There you go. So it's called injection grout, which is kind of weird. I'm using it this way, right? This is the product that I was telling you you can mix it to all kinds of thicknesses. You can use it a lot of different ways. Okay, so this is a mixing nozzle on the epoxy. You'll see that actually while I squeeze the trigger, it's two different colors. There's a white and a black. One is the resin, one is the hardener. I'm not sure which is which in this one. But by the time it comes out of the end, it should be mixed, okay? Since I don't know where one was versus the other in the packaging, okay, when it first starts coming out, you always waste a good length of it. Waste 6 inches of it. Okay, let's go ahead and flip that over. I'm going to put some epoxy in there and then we'll set it. Go ahead and butter all that right there. Everything you see, go ahead and put that product on there. Probably like 1/8 of an inch or so. Yeah, go ahead and be liberal with it and be quick. Put it on the hawk. Look at you. You're like a pro. You are an apprentice. You're a mason's tender is what they call that. All right, let's go ahead and go. We're gonna need to.
That stuff's hard already.
Yep. Take it off. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, that one's fine. We're fine. We gotta pull that pin. All right, let's see if we can apply more epoxy and reset here in a second. We're gonna have to use the drill, the hammer drill on the top that you're holding where the epoxy's in the hole. You're gonna have to drill it out. Okay. So, was that a failure? No. It's a lesson. That's fine. I can't tell you how many times that happens with us. So the mistake that I made was not having this material down quicker or already mixed up and 100% ready to go. So we were waiting on that, and that epoxy kicks over in about 5 minutes. It's very quick. So anyways, not a big deal. We've got a hammer drill. The epoxy's still fairly soft. We'll drill it out. This anchor's fine. We're gonna leave it. So let's real quickly just drill those out with the hammer drill, and we'll re-inject.
You want that other hole drilled out?
Go ahead and hit it again. Make sure.
Which way you going? We gotta go this way.
Up is the way you want to go.
That's what I said. A lot better.
Good job. All right. Okay. So now let's get some paper towels. I have a box of shop towels, and let's just kind of wipe off the excess on the outside. The patching material. Yeah, we'll use that just in a couple spots on the back, probably on this one. So what we just had happen, we used the epoxy. We injected into the holes in the bottom stone first. We buttered the top layer or the top of the bottom stone with injection grout to help fill any other voids that we were going to have once we mated the stone back together. While we were doing this, we had a little bit more time taken on laying the injection grout on the top of the bottom stone, and in that time frame the epoxy started setting up on us. We had a very short window there. So there are a couple things you can do. Either if you don't feel like you can get those things done as quickly as what we needed to here, you can find epoxies that don't set up quite as fast. They give you a little bit more open time. We didn't have that, so what we did, we knew we had a problem. We removed it right away versus having one side sitting down on it and the other side sitting up 1/2 of an inch. Let's abort the mission and let's start over. So we drilled the epoxy back out, re-injected the epoxy, and then set the top stone back in place. So success.